Hello, everyone. This is the technology your brewery needs to grow. My name is Dawn Schulz. I am a member of the New York State Brewers Association board. That's why I get to be so lucky and be up here moderating. And I am also co-owner of Prison City Brewing in Auburn, New York. We have 2 locations. We've been open for 7 years, and for the first 6 years we used spreadsheet, and that was how we ran our brewery. We would enter everything into Google Sheets. We have a second location now, and we've grown, and we have added on Arryved and Ekos to our software package. And so that's what we'll be talking about today, and I will hand it over to my panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name's, whoa. Stand back here.
Kind of like just talk normal.
Be back here, yeah. Matt Kahn from Big Ditch Brewing Company. I'm the president co-founder.
Randolph, Ellicottville Brewing Company, production manager.
Eddie Del Castillo, front of house manager at Wolf Hollow Brewing Company.
I'm Alec Johnson. I'm the solution engineer and head of industry with Ekos.
And I'm Mike Student. I'm the Northeast sales rep for Arryved Point of Sale. We're based out of Boulder, Colorado. We have about 1,400 breweries throughout the country that we work with. And Dawn and Eddie are customers of ours. So.
Welcome and thank you. So the way that we have this structured is we have it kind of broken into 3 sections. We're going to talk about productivity, and then performance, and then profitability, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. So diving right into productivity, which is sort of back of the house, Matt and Reed, you guys both use Ekos. What are the biggest challenges with communication amongst your team, and how do you combat them? How do you guys communicate within your breweries?
Sure, so just to talk about our brewery first. So we have a production brewery that runs 3 shifts, 5 days a week. So we've got a bunch of different teams all having to communicate and collaborate with each other. That's our brewery. On our tap room and restaurant side, we have a 7-day-a-week operation, lunch and dinner. So you have a lot of different crews, part-time employees coming in and out. Not really a technology thing necessarily, but we're big believers in shift handoff meetings. So every shift transfers information to the next shift, and that's true both on the tap room side and the brewery side. It's a pretty fixed agenda of things we go through: safety, quality, schedule, operations, challenges throughout the day. From a technology standpoint, we do have a program we use called Shift Notes. We use that really specifically for tap room, and that program will communicate really highlights of the day, challenges to look out for. You can schedule tasks for different members of management team. We record sales data in there so we can look back at it in future periods. That's probably our best technology that we use really for communication.
Our communication challenges is just so many forms of communication. People are texting, people are emailing, what's happening here and there. And then, so like the Ekos, everybody can see what's happening. If there's a production change, like if labels didn't come in or something, then we have to shift production, and everybody has visibility on it.
What systems do you have in place now? It sounds like you've got the shift and you use Ekos. Tell us a little bit, I guess, about what made you decide to use the systems that you're using. What would make you decide to bring on new software? What would be the advantages in that? And how do you make those decisions to really put new software into place for your breweries?
Again, I could start again. Maybe I'll talk specifically about Ekos here. So, and I was just saying to these guys, we ran off of spreadsheets for 6 years or so, maybe more than that. I built some spreadsheets that I was using to control brewery inventory, recipe management, production. It became really big, like everything was in this thing. It was very useful, but nobody else had access to it. I really was afraid of sharing it with other folks. I didn't want it to get deleted or lose information. And eventually it got so big that I was just afraid of losing it and losing all this history. So that's when we transitioned over to Ekos. We tried demoing a few different platforms, exactly the right size for us in terms of what we wanted to do. Not too complex, but still had enough complexity to do lots of different things that we wanted to do. So I find with our business that for software, even for different roles we hire for, things like that, eventually when something gets so big, you can't really do it yourself anymore. You need to upscale that, and that's really where we got to with Ekos. And it's been great, since then.
So one of our decisions is, is making sure that everybody has buy-in on it. Like all the stakeholders, like if somebody at your company isn't buying in on the product, like that's a problem. Like we've been at 2 breweries and the accounting team is like a little iffy on Ekos, and it's just because, the effort wasn't made to bring them in on it. Like they didn't do the part of the inventory and setting everything up. So you just have to make sure people buy in on it, and it works a lot better that way.
Yeah, I was going to add, and I've been part of my previous career of other systems-wide implementations or refreshes, upgrades, things like that, and you're completely right. Like if the entire team is not in on this, it's not a project and a plan, it can go awry. So like for Ekos, we all sat in project meetings. There was excellent training sessions we went through. We had a plan of how to attack it. We sort of had like a soft period where we were running side by side our current systems and our, my old crazy spreadsheets. And once we felt comfortable for a month, maybe things were good and everything was working, then we switched everybody over. And there's still a learning curve there, but you don't want to do those things, after it's already running. It's way more painful after that. So you need to spend the time as to really implement the system right, have good training tools, validate the data, things like that.
Yeah, just one more thing. Like sometimes technology isn't the solution to the problem. Like there's a company called Asana. It's like a task list, and that was supposed to help with our communication, but there wasn't. Like somebody just came in and it's like, this is your new software that you're using on this, and it takes you like, well, what's the purpose of this? You're not giving me anything. Like our communication hasn't improved. Like you're papering over something. So you have to. Will this actually help our company scale up, like Matt said?
And if I could jump in for 2 seconds, just off what he's saying, we tried, our company, we have some unique barriers that involve our business being located in a reception dead zone. And essentially, if you're not on our Wi-Fi and you don't have an iPhone, it's a really hard, really difficult to actually for me to talk to all my staff, because not everyone has iPhones. So it's one thing if they're on iPhone, I can just text on the Wi-Fi. If they don't, I have to go run around outside to message them if I need to text someone before they're coming in for their shift. So we don't have an actual communication software. We tried to implement Slack probably a year and a half ago, and we just we kind of just said, we kind of just said oh hey. We're going to use Slack. We just asked everyone, please download Slack, and there was not a company-wide buy-in to it, and because of that, it just went by the wayside very, very quickly. And we, that's partially my fault because I didn't really effectively explain to my small staff, why we were doing this, and so it went by the wayside, and our kind of communication issues have persisted a little bit, with disseminating information, especially as things can change, throughout a long day, a long Saturday, a long weekend, what was true on Thursday might not be true Saturday morning when you're opening. You want to make sure people get all that information as fast as possible. So I have to, I'll just, I have to resort to just texting my bartenders or sending an email, but people always check their email on weekends, so they might not see it. So that's, for us, for me personally, that's something I'm still trying to figure out the best way of communicating with my staff.
Yeah, for sure. I think we probably all are, right? So kind of moving over to the front of the house, and I think you started to touch on it. Can you guys tell us a little bit about what your tap rooms are like, what the customers experience, and what your service model is?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, so our place, and we'll follow our service model is it's all counter service. So you walk in, there's a tall bar, long bar, customers walk up, we serve all the customers at the bar, we don't do table service. And then we have either have a food truck that's set up outside, and that's all taken care of. Separate business, money's handled separately. go up to the food truck and pay, or in the winter we'll set them up with something a little bit warmer where they can just take orders, but they still have to cook on their vehicles. And we've tried to, add things here and there to make it a little cleaner. We do have a very big property, so doing table service is not something for us that's really feasible, especially in the warmer months. We have, our property is 17 acres. We have a huge patio, huge backyard space, so, we only use our second bar for special events when we know it's going to be super busy, so sometimes that can be a longer walk inside. That's a lot for the staff to keep an eye on. So, we are always looking for new ways to improve, the customer experience. With COVID, a lot of you had the same experience where, the physical menus disappeared for a while, so maybe a lot of places they haven't come back. And our customers really like those physical menus. I'm sure a lot of yours do as well. So trying to figure out a way to bring it back it's in like a better way, and not just QR codes, because those can only do so well, and I'm sure a lot of us are sick of hearing the phrase QR codes. I'm sure a lot of the customers are sick of hearing the phrase QR codes at this point, myself included. But yeah, just personally, Arryved has helped us with that a bunch, but
Yeah, so you're using Arryved for your POS system?
Yeah, we do use Arryved. We changed over to them from Shopkeep, which is a subsidiary of Amber. Sorry, Amber, which is a subsidiary of Shopkeep, was a subsidiary of Shopkeep. And we, it was good. It was for us. That was most beneficial at the time, but it did take me a while to get there. But it's really kind of just up to whatever your business model is. If you're selling more online, you might want to do it a different way. But for us, we're most of our, we don't do a ton of online commerce at this point. More so around the holidays or bigger holidays. So since most of our stuff is inside the tap room, it's good for us on premise.
How about for you guys? What are you doing in terms of tap room?
So, Ellicottville Brewing was a brew pub first, and it's been around for 25 years. And for the longest time, we've been using micros. And then with COVID, we started experimenting with other POS systems, not Arryved, but somebody else's. And it helps, with the customer, people aren't walking around to find a terminal to swipe a credit card or do anything like that. Everything happens at the table, so there's less movement on that front. And the reports that we can get out of it is why we moved over from micros.
Yeah, we have a full service tap room as well, as I said, 7 days a week, lunch and dinner. We've had that since we opened. We have a production brewery and a brew pub restaurant downtown. We also use micros. We've been trying to sort of move away from micros for a pretty long time and just haven't quite gotten there. It was really a sort of a standard for a while, but there's a lot of functions these days that it doesn't have. So the front end's user-friendly, but there's not a lot of reporting in the back end. We have integrated another piece of software right on the back end, so we can do reporting and look at sales trends. Yeah, that's our model.
Yeah, so that's just switching over from one system to the other. You don't want to do it. That's going to be a lot of work. It's time-consuming. But if you think about all the time you take compiling reports, and you have to go to this website or go to this platform and get that data, put it into Excel, that takes a lot of time as well. You're just not experiencing it all at once.
Yeah. And then, it's hard to get some of that information real time with this current systems that we have right now. It's going to the back end, putting a report and exporting it and sending it out and all this stuff. So, it's definitely a downside of the system we have right now.
And to add to what they're saying, one of the biggest reasons that I pushed to switch hours was because there was no real reporting aspect to it. It was very basic. It was good for a company that was, kind of starting up, low cost, all that, easy to use, more or less. But once you, start to grow and, there's more lines of revenue and all that stuff, it's just, especially in COVID magnified it, we had to build a third-party online store when we had them go all to to-go service. And it really, kicked it, realized that we have to find a system or find something that's better reporting, because the reporting is really the biggest thing you're going to want there. Seeing live sales data in the cloud, you can access it from anywhere. And that was really helpful to me. For me, I do our staffing, it's really helpful for me to see, a graph. You see something here, just seeing the graph, like, hey, I need more staffing here at this time of the day, and I can cut back here because mine's here and then stuff here. So, that stuff is super helpful for me. So.
Yeah, same. So tell me, did you guys, and I think probably a lot of this came out of COVID as a result, obviously QR codes, but in terms of other things within the tap room, what are you guys using and what do you use your software for in terms of like QR codes, or do you use it for loyalty programs? Are you able to do POS sales through it, any takeout and online sales, and how has that been working in terms of integrating with what you're using?
I can start. Again, like I said, our taproom experience probably isn't super well integrated. It would be better if it was. We did implement during COVID and the shutdowns, we did online ordering through Square, actually. We had a Square system set up already for just doing like merchandise and little things. We wound up using that full build out for complete shipping and pickup orders for everything basically we had. Anything that we could sell, we would sell. We probably would have sold you at the bar. So, and that definitely got us through a pretty tough time, and, people are still obviously using those systems today. So that's probably the best way we've really integrated technology into shifting to how things have changed over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and when initially with COVID, when we had to build an online store, which we didn't have at the time, in 48 hours, we built it through our websites. We use Squarespace, and so we built a store through Squarespace, which was not integrated with our point of sale, which creates a whole other annoying issue of having to sales are not all in the same place. You have different reports from different places, it doesn't all go together. So when we went to one of these, we switched over, having the point of sale and the online store were all in this, controlled by the same thing. They all go to the same place. And you can see the breakdown of the sales online versus bar sales, taproom sales, where they're coming, methodology by which they're coming in. That was one of the bigger reasons why we switched, because everything was disconnected, and that's really inefficient, and you should pull your hair out.
Yeah, we did the same. That Square system, the order would come in, you got to manually enter that Square order into the POS and take the payment, but the payment doesn't go through there for Square orders, but it does for anything on the site, so it's pretty messy.
Yeah, we're still doing that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't understand how you guys have that problem, because we set up our store within, we got told we were closing down, the rules came out on Monday, I believe. Tuesday we were closed, anyway, Wednesday I had my online store up, integrated with my POS system, which was Square, which I'm going to use, and still been using for 6 years. I'm going to be moving to live, but just to say here, you guys have such nightmares. Orders would come in, it would appear on my POS, we would do the order, it was either shipping or delivery, and we would take care of it, process it, the money was there on my POS. There was no separation at all.
Yeah, we didn't have Arryved at the time. We had a total.
No, I was using Square.
Yeah, we didn't have Square. We
I had both.
didn't have. Like I said, the POS that that company had been using since their inception was very basic and really had very low functionality. It was basically, it was just you could make it was just a quick dashboard and just sell stuff. It had no other functionality essentially. So we were, that was just, unfortunately for us, that's how we had, and we hadn't moved quick enough on updating our POS to a Square or whatever else that was available, and so that's what created our issues, is that we had two separate systems. That was the problem for us anyway.
Yeah, as did we. So I mean, if you enter an order through Micros, it'll print a ticket in the kitchen, so you know what to make. We have our taproom space is, I think, maybe 5,000 square feet. That's actually pretty big upstairs and downstairs and that sort of thing. And again, when everything was shut down, we weren't using all that, but still to just change everything the way you're doing. Like some parts of it would change, some part we didn't want to completely change. So we did what we could to make it work. I mean, it was really some manual step. It wasn't a nightmare, but obviously not the most efficient way to do it.
I didn't enjoy it.
I did it 3 times with 3 different softwares. I have a lot of trauma from those first couple of weeks, just literally reloading every piece of information that we had from one into another one, into another one.
Yeah.
That's why we're with Arryved now. So tell me a little bit about, we've talked about QR codes and maybe using some software to save us time and energy and maybe potentially staffing. How does your employee engagement impact your guest experience? Like, how do you feel like the guests interacting with your employees matters? Is it okay to take some of that away? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Personally, for us, taking it away would be a huge detriment because of where we're located, our general clientele. It wouldn't. My bartenders have to do a lot of massaging and talking through stuff with people, which they wouldn't get with that. If we took some of that away, so that's integral to us, and it definitely increases our sales. Increases the chance that people will come back, maybe have a second, maybe take something to go. And without it, we wouldn't get the repeat customers that we do.
I was going to say, I mean, same for us as well too. I mean, service is sort of everything. You can make up for a lot with great service, but the reverse doesn't really work. If you've got excellent products and bad service, it doesn't work really well at all. So, the employee engagement service has to be high for us to be successful.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I mean, it seems like a misunderstanding with a lot of people that technology can be put in place to replace staff and servers, but the idea is to enhance that experience, right? So I know we're talking about QR codes quite a bit, and a lot of times when I talk to people about QR codes, their initial reaction is, well, no, I want my staff to be able to talk to the guest. I don't want them just to scan a QR code and not be able to ask about beers or whatnot, or the history of my brewery, but that's not, the idea is not to do that. The idea is to give that staff member actually more time to interact with that guest, right? So think about if you're doing like a traditional service model. I go out to a table, I take an order in a traditional model. I want to go back to the bar, put that order in. Now I go wait for those beers to get ready, bring the beers out to the table, do that process over and over. So I'm walking back and forth. It's a lot of dead time. With a QR code, I can go up to that table, I can talk to that guest, like, hey, go ahead, scan the QR code, take a look what we have, let me know if you have any questions, walk to the next table, do the same thing. But the point is to keep that staff member in front of the guest and just using that technology to help them enhance that experience. It actually gives them more time to talk to the guest because they're not spending that time walking back and forth and wasting time, running to the bar and placing the orders in. So it is a new technology, and some people, you have to use it to your advantage, and you have to kind of get away from the thought process of like it's going to take from the experience, but use it to enhance the experience. So and that just comes with staff training. It also comes with whether or not your guests are kind of receptive to it. But the idea is use technology to experiment, essentially, right? See what works for your space. But it's definitely not the purpose of it is not to take away from that interaction at all. So.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, like, we say that the best servers are more than just order takers. You don't want to just be an order taker. You really want to explain the experience to the guests, explain your products, and guide them through the process of your tap room or brewery or tasting room, whatever it is. So anything that could probably shift it a little away from order taking and a little more to more experiential is a good thing.
Yeah, and thank you, because that's my next question. We are probably all seeing a little bit of a crunch with labor, and that's going to be something we'll all have to address here pretty soon if we're not at the moment. So tell us a little bit maybe about how the software systems can help with that and how you use them to give a real positive experience for the guest.
So we put, we have our service model. Customers come to the bar and we talk to them. It's kind of a nice way to interact right when they get in the door. You say hi, introduce yourself. Hi, how are you? And you're talking to them right away, and getting them what they want, have them find what they're looking for, and helping them, tell them about how the place works, and keep them moving and tell them how to enjoy the place. Get them feeling how they enjoy the place best. So we have, like I said, we have a lot of outdoor space. So inside, we do use QR codes currently at the moment. That's mostly because I'm trying to bring back the physical menus, at least for the inside of the tap room. I can't print it right now, it's kind of hard. But also, like, it would not be feasible for me to make as many menus as I would need to cover all the seating on my property. It's too much. It's a ton of paper, and if my tap list is changing once or twice a week, it's just gonna just losing money. So to cover the larger space, outside, we're sticking with that, with the QR code thing. I got a little menu I have, laminated. It's on every table. You can check our food trucks menu. You can check our food truck schedule. You can check our the draft list of what's on draft. It shows you the cans to go. It shows you the can pours, and then it'll update. As it changes throughout the day, that'll all update without me having to go through and change 40 different menus across the property and hunt all those down and change them. So we tell folks, if you're outside, we have technology. It's just that we have a draft list outside that you can see as long as the rain hasn't washed it out. It's out there in the back, so there's a draft list there if you want to see it. Also, check the scannable menus on all your tables. If you're all the way out in the back, our Wi-Fi covers our whole property. We made sure to extend our Wi-Fi when we, extended our outside space and people are going to be outside more. We have the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi only covered, maybe part of, like, the small part of our patio on the inside. It now covers our entire seatable area, property all the way back to the tree line. So wherever you are in that part where no one's really going past that, you're going to be able to get on our Wi-Fi and, check the menu, look at the menu if you need to look at it if you're sitting all the way back under the trees or by the fires or something like that. So that was that was POS based, but we extending the Wi-Fi. Putting that Wi-Fi extender in really helped us people be able to see stuff and not have to, fight with the service out there to, and to get what they want or see what they want, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, incorporating the online store a little bit better, being able to direct folks to having at least for us, having a better online store, because our online store was not always, wasn't very good. Being able to say, you can check our online store for this. If you want to check out the sizes, see what it looks like, and check that. Sell tickets and all that kind of stuff for events. We didn't really have the ability to sell stuff like that previously.
The technology on the production side, like Ekos helps decentralize what can happen. So if my dock guy can he can go online, get the pick sheet for that day. I don't have to go and get it and print it out, give it to him. That's he can look at it on a phone, he can print it out himself. We have a printer for those guys. Cellarmen can enter information in on their phone, they're dropping yeast, and you can also update a few things on the cellaring logs. So, and that frees up time for myself and for the head brewer to, try to find cans or raw materials, something like that. So it frees up time, and it gives our employees a sense of pride to learn a new technology and to be utilizing it.
So maybe, guys, if you don't mind just talking about profitability a little bit. You talked about reports and how important they are to get that information. How do you keep all of your systems flowing together? How do you deal with getting POS systems into accounting systems, into business management systems, and then how do you use all of that to help make decisions about your business?
I can start. So again, you've got our brewery and tap room side, which again are not quite perfectly integrated, but slightly different pathways. So on the tap room side, again, we have micros and then this sort of in-between back-end program. This program is actually called Craftable. We just put it in really the last 6 months. And so that takes all the data out of our POS and we can use that for reporting and trending. And then that actually connects to QuickBooks, which we use for our accounting system as well too. So we can process orders that way. Again, look at reporting, that sort of thing. On the brewery side, again, we have Ekos, and that does all the production management, inventory as well. And then Ekos is also connected to QuickBooks. So really our accountant, well, he's still pretty busy, but he has a lot less of manual entry he needs to do every day because all the data and sales and inventory and invoicing and purchase orders are all flowing through these automated systems that the users are out there using. So that's a nice way to integrate everything. And then, we can use those systems then in terms of driving profitability, looking at things like costing. So every recipe in both of those systems has a cost. And then in turn, we use that for pricing to make sure we're pricing products appropriately. So we're making, margins that we're trying to make. So, it's where the power of this whole thing comes in, is make sure you're making money.
How about for you, Reed? Are you using Ekos to go into QuickBooks, or?
Well, our accounting person, she has like a sideline of Ekos and her own system, which is QuickBooks as well. So there's a little lag there. And then, just selling stuff into the restaurant, tracking it, saying like, we sold this amount of beer of this product this month, and keeping those inventories where they need to be so you don't run out of that beer, or you let the sales staff know this is going to be running out soon. So.
For us, our payroll and our inventory is not linked with our POS. So we do have to we keep our accountant handles. He has his own spreadsheets for everything. He can see our back end, and the back end is super helpful for me. If someone comes to me and says, I need, can you tell me how much we have a can run coming up, or Bruce sketches says, how much of X beer do we sell in this amount of time? So how much do we need on hand? How much of this batch you can? How much should go to draft? So I can go in there and run the report for a certain time period and see that, and see what it gives me, and I can go back and say, hey, I need, we sell 7 cases of this beer over whatever a week. That's a lot for us. But, so we need X for to get us through like a 4 or 5 week period or something like that. Yeah. That's super helpful for me because I didn't have that ability in the past. And being able to run ounceage reports is helpful for me to see how much we sold every day. I can break it down by a particular beer, and I can see having a back end that has a sales drill down that I can go in and open up each individual item down to the size. I can see how much of each size of each beer we're selling, so it would give me an idea of if I see we sold 50 units of our blonde ale, but then I go into that and it says only of the 50 units of all the different sizes we sell. If it says only 20 of those were pint sales, it can give me and you go down to the flight size, and it's but 30 of those were 4 ounce pours. It's okay, well, either there's a lot of flights, or people are trying it and they're not really liking it, and they're not liking it, or they're trying it, they're not buying it in different sizes. It's not being sold. If we're not seeing it to go, you can help us kind of scale hey, if we want to make this beer, we have to make it less, because it's just sitting around, and full kegs full of beer just sitting around for long periods of time, your money's just sitting in the keg. It's not going anywhere. It's taking up space.
I was just going to add one more thing, maybe just to slightly put these two guys in the spot a little bit from these two technology companies. But one of the things I wish we had more was better forecasting tools for sales. So, we have to do that sort of offline, taking previous data and trying to interpret how things have been trending and seasonal patterns, that sort of thing. That's one of the things that I think we're missing, both for a tap room and brewery. So that's something I'd love to be able to add into both of those systems at some point. There's a lot that goes into that. That's not easy, but It's one of the
And
things.
it sounds like with some of the data that you're using and being able to look at like packaging and what's selling and in what format, how do you use a lot of that to, and especially now, navigate with the supply chain challenges that we're all facing, raw materials, packaging materials, are you using any of that information to kind of help along that?
Yep. So both of the programs I referenced that we used previously, both will take in your ingredients that you're purchasing, assign a cost to them, and then roll them into a recipe so you have an idea what your finished products cost, whether it's a case of beer or it's a hamburger, something like that. And again, you can use that data then to track pricing, sales, and that sort of thing to make sure you're pricing appropriately. And you really need to do a pretty especially recently, very close look at these things because pricing is changing a lot. May cause you, for instance, on the food side to maybe think about getting pricing from different vendors. On the brewery side, like we'll do, pricing analysis maybe once a year with our wholesalers. At that time, you really want to have as good information as possible so you're not going to potentially price something and lose money for a whole year on a product. So that's, a huge power of having these systems.
So with Ekos, you can set up alerts for when your inventory gets below a certain level, and I find that very helpful. I've definitely raised that since the supply chain everything takes much longer. So usually I'm down to 5,000 units of something, and before COVID, I was a 2 or 3 week turnaround time. Now it's 7 to 8 weeks. So now when I get below 20,000 of case boxes, all right, I need to reorder this now so it gets here in time. And that's a key feature for me.
So I think if it's okay, we can maybe open it up to some questions. We have about 20 minutes. I just want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to ask questions about software in general, technology, specifically Ekos and Arryved are here. We can tell you some of the other things that we're using if you'd like. Does anybody have any questions? Sure.
Could you say something on the right, since you guys have how many are your systems?
For myself, yeah. So our brewery, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. We have a 20-barrel brewery.
And about how much,
We have a 60-barrel brew house and a 30-barrel brew house and a 10-barrel brew house.
okay, and about how much time daily or weekly do you spend on Ekos?
Boy, I'm in and out of Ekos quite a lot on a daily basis, moving product around, checking reports, trending on sales. So I don't know. But it's minutes at a time, so I don't know. But maybe I spend an average of an hour on there a day. It depends what I'm doing. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit longer.
I'm on there a lot, getting the BOLs ready, reconciling inventory discrepancies, and running reports and getting the COGS. So I'm on there probably 3 to 4 hours a day.
Yeah, I was going to say we have a gentleman who works in our receiving department, so he's constantly shipping stuff out, receiving and shipping, constantly receiving stuff in, shipping stuff out. He's on there. He's either on the forklift or on Ekos. That's pretty much it.
And what we tell people when they sign up with Ekos is going to become part of your standard operating procedures. So the time you're spending in spreadsheets or the time you're spending on the whiteboard, you'll be replacing that. You'll be in Ekos instead, handling all of that information.
You mentioned some benefits to Ekos that you like about it, like the secrets are low and so on. Before you guys used Ekos, was there something else you used? And,
Spreadsheets.
just sheets, not orchestrated?
Yeah, and those. Another brewery I worked at, we had orchestrated, and we had it for 2 weeks. I came into the job, they had orchestrate, and it's just it's a beast. And we couldn't get the reports that we wanted out of it. You just couldn't get your COGS. And so we scrapped that, went back to spreadsheets across the entire company. Now everybody's siloed off and nobody's really communicating with anybody else. And then then one day Josh from Ekos just appeared at our door and he's like, I have this wonderful product. It's super intuitive. I'm not the most computer savvy person. but it's easy to navigate, so.
Yeah, we used spreadsheets as well. You know, we did look at a lot of different systems, including orchestrated beer, before we chose Ekos. I think that probably, you know, there's probably a right-sized solution for everybody. So maybe, you know, as we grow, maybe we'll outgrow what we're on, or maybe we won't, you know. I think if we were a lot smaller, maybe we wouldn't have wanted to necessarily go with Ekos. Maybe we wanted to go something a little smaller, but again, it had a lot of different functionality and, you know, sort of perfect for the size of business that we are.
Which tier of Ekos do the two of you folks use? The way I understand it, there's, I think, two. There's one that comes with kind of an enhanced customer service, some like more problem solving on their end, and then one that's strictly support desk tickets. I'm just wondering what you found most functional.
I don't think we have like the enhanced service, you know, option.
Yeah.
I think that may have been an onboarding. We have two different onboardings, so when customers sign up, they can choose a different onboarding package. But like for customer support, you can call in, everybody can call in, email in, you can access our support team through the Ekos knowledge base.
So there's not like a specific tier of Ekos where you can be assigned like a customer success manager or like one specific person to contact that knows your platform.
So we have a customer success team, and that's the team you work with during onboarding. And you can obviously contact them as you get onboarded within the system. But we do have a technical support team, so as you are live in the software and have been onboarded, you can contact them. But yes, you can obviously contact the rep that you work with during onboarding as well.
We had a dedicated, basically training. Someone working with us through training, which was excellent. And then since then, we sort of have a dedicated, like, I mean, not dedicated just to us, but someone we can reach to for issues. And someone who sort of does more the operations side, and someone does a little more the accounting side for us. So, and then, yeah, as you had said, that there's a pretty good knowledge base of questions and user input out there. You know, it won't solve all your problems, but at least give you some good places to start and things to try.
So you guys both said that like the first 6 or so years you just did spreadsheets and whatnot and, you know, moved over to Ekos and it's been great. Like somebody like me who's just starting out with 5-barrel, brew house, tap room, is it worth going with Ekos, you know, now, or, you know, do we go the spreadsheet route and, you know, have at it, like, you know, looking back?
Like Matt said earlier, like there's like a scaling portion. I'd say at your level, spreadsheets are the way to go. It's just when more people have to touch the data, that's when you want to look at having a more unified system.
We've got, by now, I think 7 or 8 wholesalers. So we're producing products and shipping them out every day. So it depends on what your business model is. I mean, you could have a 5-barrel system and still have a lot of different customers, and that might be tough to manage just off of spreadsheets, you know. But, you know, again, agreed, there's usually I like to, you know, start small, understand what the limitations are, and then if you want to invest some money later, you can always do that. You know, you don't obviously want to get into something that you can't manage, but you also don't want to spend money in places you don't need it. So.
Matt, how did you find the onboarding and support from Craftable?
Yeah, so I wasn't as directly as involved in the onboarding support. I was just maybe a little bit higher level, and our, you know, some of our taproom managers were a lot more focused there. But you know, overall, it was pretty good. We really had all the support we needed. They took us through some of the training. Again, the launch wasn't perfect for a few different reasons. So, like, the onboarding support and training for any of these systems is only going to be as good as the person on your team running that. And we did a lot of things right, but there were a few things we missed. You really want to take the time to make sure that was done. But yeah, Craftable was fine. The system is like more than capable of doing just about everything you know we needed to do.
Anybody have any?
So for having multiple distributors, how are you, I guess, with forecasting and having other community sale or database sale for customers? Like, your inventory kind of distribution? Also, what do you need?
There's a forecasting tool on, like, you put your orders in for as far out as you can. I almost wish there was like a different way to put in production, like we're gonna make X amount of cases this many months out and like that. But right now you have to put the order in, and it's just it shows you what your depletions will be based on your current orders. So you can plan out, like, so you can see in April that you're gonna be down 100 cases. Like, now we have to make that batch of beer and time it out that way. And then you can like drill it down to the day. So a lot of functionality there.
How are you importing your historical sales to create that forecasting system?
Importing so our previous sales in Ekos, like we've had for 3 years, like you can go back and there's reports that you can run and you can compare them. But the previous, those are the wholesale.
So that wholesale order going up, so it doesn't look like wagons.
No, it doesn't do that. That would be more VIP.
So
Yeah.
are you putting that VIP data into Ekos to generate forecasting, or is it just coming out of orders?
Unless I'm wrong, I don't believe that you can forward predict sales.
Currently, you cannot.
Right, so I think what you're referring to is we can, I'll tell you exactly what our process is. So we sum up all the VIP data from all the wholesalers. That gives us a forecast on each SKU. And then based on inventory levels, I can take that number and then predict out when I'm going to run out of stuff and then schedule production. As you schedule our production for, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks, something like that, and that'll drive demand for all the materials that you'll see in the forecasting. So the forecasting tool in Ekos really is for on a material basis, but it doesn't do the like forward predicting. Here's what your sales are going to be. That's what I would love to have at some point. But that's all done again on spreadsheet right now. It's just taking all that data, and then the algorithms used to come up with what your forecast is going to be. I mean, there's a number of different ways to do it, and we're experimenting with different things. Historically, I've just done like previous 4 weeks average of sales, but that doesn't work very well when you change seasons. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into that.
You just mentioned that was something you love to see. With Ekos, how often, I'm sure you're getting input, like, oh, you'd like to see this, it'd be great to have that.
Yeah.
I mean, how often would you say, like, quarterly, like, or semi-annually, would you say, like, hey, new updates? I mean, I'm sure that's close, but do you find you're doing that often?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're constantly making updates to the software. I'd say 70 to 75% of all enhancements have been requests from users. Now, again, they were on our roadmap to begin with, but we're constantly talking to our customers. Hey, what's going to make your experience with Ekos better? What can we do to make it better? Because, like Matt was saying, I guarantee you, he's not the only person asking for this feature. There's multiple people asking for it, so it's obviously going to benefit him, but it's going to benefit every other brewer.
And there's like the knowledge base, it's like a community, like imagine like a pro brewer forum, but specifically for Eco. And you can put in, like, you can just write a note like, I want to see this, and then people can say, agree with that, and I imagine it puts more eyes on
Absolutely.
on the thing that you want to see implemented.
Is anyone using the same system for production and talent?
We use Arryved and Ekos, and Arryved can feed all of the data into Ekos, and then Ekos can send it into QuickBooks. So we create a tap room within Ekos software that we're able to sell out of, and it depletes the inventory. So, when Mark is looking at what can I sell to our distributors, he's able to see what has happened in real time over the weekend through Arryved.
You can treat your tap room kind of like another facility.
We do, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for Ekos, we can do transfers of beer to tap room, so we're tracking how much beer the tap room is taking from the brewery. Yeah, it's almost like a different cost center or whatever, and you can run the reports versus outside wholesale sales versus.
You can treat it as a customer essentially.
Yeah.
Have it at a $0 charge.
But there's also special functions just for tap room, orders and that sort of thing, internal transfers.
we have 2 locations, and so on the screen, rather than having to, you know, keep selling it back and forth to each other, although we do legally, it's literally a drag and drop. Okay, Ben took a bag of grain from North Street and he brought it over to State Street to brew. One swipe of a thing, there it is. Now it's in the pub's inventory. You know, same for packaged beer. So that saves us a lot of time.
And you guys usually can track feature within Ekos, or do you just do the drag and drop?
Oh, you mean for like finished products or finished kegs you're talking about?
Yeah, like the kegs scanning.
We have not done that.
We're with MicroStar, so we don't, not concerned with that.
We used, prior to our switching our point of sale, we used Keg ID for maybe 6 months, and it went, for one reason or another, it went by the wayside. I don't work on production side, really, so I don't know why. I just know when a keg kicked, I would take my phone out, scan it into inventory, and then drop it into the dirty, you know, when the dirty kegs go. We don't use it anymore. That was probably 2 years ago, I want to say.
We don't use the ID, but there is a really great report in Ekos that I pull a lot, which shows where our kegs are out in the market. And it's a nice little report. It says out of the 150 kegs that we have, 85 are out in the market, and here's exactly where they are, which helps us because we forget sometimes.
Yeah, you can also track your sort of keg float through there too as kegs come in and get returned, you know, so you have an idea, like, which has been a problem for us in the past. We're getting low on kegs. We got to think about getting more kegs somehow in here. You know, you can use that system to do that.
Well, 5 more minutes. Anybody have any questions? Maybe even for the Arrived in Ekos gang?
Are you guys tracking orders? Is it our biggest problem, that I have with Savage was through Square, like, it's great to see when your sales are actually happening, but that's also cashing out our so dig into actually show new and all that. So you see a big jump in sales before, but it might not be there, or you guys kind of tracking orders input as well as just tickets cash out, or
Yeah, with our system, it's tracked in real time, so it's when the order is placed. So not really taxed before. Yeah, so we'll be able to show you throughout the day, each hour, how many items you sell, how much revenue you're doing.
and it doesn't necessarily require a full cash out.
Nope. Nope.
Any transaction, like this was added to this tab, this tab.
Yeah, as soon as that customer places that order, it's reported at that time. And it's super valuable information because you're able to then go back and like pull out, start building up that data. Go back to Saturday, so noon before o'clock, like, I'm doing 60% of my revenue. It's not, here's the items I'm selling. So you know on the production side, what I need to have on the menu available, but you also know on the staffing side, what am I actually the business, like, so does it work if you don't have the bars at that bar, trying to drive that revenue to keep high, and vice versa, to show you your downtime. So just really, to help you in that, as efficient as possible.
I guess my follow-up question would be, you guys do card be able to get it back?
Yeah, you do.
So I don't have to pull out the guy on the card.
Yeah, that is the number one complaint you hear from a lot of POS systems is holding cards. Now we do a deferred authorization, so it brings up the payment token for that payment. So yeah, you swipe a card and get it back the next time. And then the last thing you want is a roll of exit cards when it's alarm. It's Saturday morning, so you're calling you.
Yep. The nice thing too that we use it for is we have a couple of different areas on our at our new brewery where they can order here, they can keep that tab open where it's swiped, and then they can go over to that bar and they can add on to it, and then they can go order food from our counter, they can add that onto it. So they don't have to be right at the same place, which is really nice, and then kind of have this whole big tab and then just cash out at the end.
I will say I check every day for I check the hourly sales, the live sales. And sometimes if I'm not there, I'll check it, but every morning at the end of the night, I'll check to see how the sales flow went and stuff. And like as Dawn said, the transfer between points of sale, especially when we have our secondary bar open and for big events in the summer. If you don't want to wait up the lines, it's line side, you can just go out to the satellite, you know, start a tab out there, close it inside, close it outside, and not have to wait on line. We want to do that.
Not out there, but I'll also add that if you have other venues like farmers markets that you go to and stuff, you can track that all real time too. Same system.
You can't, it won't be exact dollar for dollar. Gives you like a 3%.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Yep. You can also do cash discounts where you come with those tax important cash deals. Small change.
If I could just ask, and this is for anybody in the room, has anybody gone to completely cashless student credit cards? And what that's, is anybody like eliminated? What that experience is like? Or does everybody still accept cash?
We have not. We thought about it during COVID when nobody wanted to touch the money, but we didn't. I think that in some cases you could. You might want to put an ATM in your location if you're considering that, but we haven't.
No, I was just going the other way, cashless.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Then you don't need the ATM. But no, we haven't.
Yeah, we have customers that just card owners. No printing, no receipts, all digital, no cash. So there are people that do it. And it kind of comes down to your customer base as well. People are, you know, who you're serving, but there are definitely businesses out there that are doing that. It's a trend in certain areas, yeah. You know, again, depends on your location.
Anybody going cashless? You are.
We went cashless for about 6 months in the middle of COVID. And I think since we've come back, it's maybe 5% cash. But I'm in a college town with a lot of young college kids and who will be paying the phone, professors and stuff like that. There are some older clientele who won't even use the digital sign out. They want the paper copy. I think, you know, for us it was doing what we felt was the right thing to do at the time, but then, you know, even with QR codes, offering it, suggesting it, moving in that direction, but you may want to have the ability to do something else, even paper menus, right? Like have a few, but try to move your customers in that direction. So, but ultimately the decision was to come back and do cash because I found out one of my employees was doing cash transaction and putting it on his credit card and doing that at the end of the night. I'm like, ooh, let's not do that.
Oh boy.
Bring the cash back. But it's for us, it's really not that much. And we do everything we can to push towards credit card. I know a lot of systems too, there's a lot of folks that try to do something with the credit card fees and add it on or back it off and everything else like that. And I know some systems do it, some systems don't. Our mentality has been, hey, let's just kind of put that into the pricing of it and make sure we're doing it that way. Because I don't like the optics of discounts or additional fees, and I don't like the idea of trying to track all that and everything else. Just build your model assuming that cost is going to be in there.
Yeah. Anybody else? Did anybody sit in the SLA talk yesterday where if you sell beer online, you may have to add the credit card fees on? I just found that out, so.
You have to add the fees.
I think that's only for wholesalers.
Maybe it's.
When you're paying a wholesaler with a credit card, which is now to, I think you have to, there has to be an accounting fee.
Okay.
So.
Gotta investigate it more
I
about
don't
it.
think it's for customers.
Okay. All right.